Welcome back, Pokemon trainers. Thank you for joining us again after that short break. It's myself and Jeremy behind the desk, and we're going to be taking you into the second match of our Friday broadcast, this time between the United States and Spain.
So we're going to be having Max Gill coming out here against Sohaib Mufti. Are you able to get a little sneak peek of the teams as well? So this should be quite an exciting match. We can see how Spain and United States are currently doing against each other in this top 8 round. The quarterfinals as well has actually got a name to it this time, not just top something. It's actually got the official name of quarterfinals at this point. So yeah, you can see there United States have got 1-0 against Spain. So got that for that first advantage for the United States there.
Yeah, going up in the world, we are quarterfinals, not top 8 anymore. No, if we take a closer look here, again, we can see another Kyogre had come out into the fray, but it was actually the Lunala out of the restricted sides for the United States there that was able to take the victory. So still lots of games to be able to play between the clash of the United States versus Spain. So there's still going to be lots of Pokemon action to be able to view.
Lunala team looks very similar to the team that won a lot of regionals in the Moon series. I think it was just Groudon over the Porygon 2, and I think the rest of the 5 were the same. So yeah, interesting bringing that back and taking the win as well for the United States for Z there. So good start for the United States. We'll have to see if they're able to carry that momentum going for Sohaib here, going up against Max Gill. So we can have a look at what the two players are going to be bringing into this match. Starting off with the United States, with Sohaib Mufti, going to be rocking that Kyogre team. Looks like a very classic Tornoga team. I still want that name of what the core of Serena, Kyogre, and Tornadus is. I'm sure there's got to be a name for it because that core is so common.
Yeah, I'm sure chat can probably help you with a few of those names for that particular core. But of course, as a Regieleki, delighted to see that. But as you've said, this is quite a standard team that we've been able to see quite a few times. So we know it's tried and tested, we know it's effective, and it has quite a lot of good switchability here as well. You know, we see the Serena switch in to take any of those priority moves, and having a Mungus there and the Entei to be able to switch in to, you know, take what would have been super effective attacks and take them for obviously less damage has been a really great sort of strength of this team.
A slightly less common on these kind of Tornoga teams, but able to do some very good damage into Pokemon like the Zacians and Amoonguss as well. The grass types that are going to be able to deal with the Kyogres aren't going to appreciate taking any of the Sacred Fires or Flare that's is coming out from the Entei. So yeah, very tried and true team coming out for Sohaib. You can have a look at what Max is going to bring it for Spain here. So it's going to be Kyogre up against the Calyrex Shadow Rider.
Yes, Calyrex Shadow Rider jumping out into the fray. Again, one of these Pokemon that's been a really hot favourite for this sort of one restricted type format. Regieleki, once again, I'm so happy to see it on both teams, possibly going to be able to see it in action in this particular match. But again, a Pokemon I really want to talk about is that Nihilego, Jamie.
Yeah, pairs really well with the Calyrex Shadow Rider. One of the best Pokemon against the Shadow Rider is that Incineroar, and Nihilego is one of the Pokemon that can just knock it out in one shot with that Power Herb boosted Meteor Beam, getting that one turn charge and immediately knocking out the Incineroar while getting those boosts for the Nihilego. So some very strong Pokemon coming out for both players. Some very tried and true on both sides of the field. Very similar cores coming out for the Kyogre that we've seen a lot of times. The Calyrex Shadow Rider, these are definitely not uncommon Pokemon coming out for the Shadow Rider either. So going back to some old favorites, it seems, for both players here.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of Pokemon that are tried and tested. And you can see as well on Max's team, having Pokemon like the Rillaboom and Incineroar are such a dynamic duo together. It allows you the constant switching on the battlefield, constant fake out pressure, and of course the odd cheeky Intimidate thrown in as well.
Fake out pressure is really put a stop to by that Serena. That's its main job on these kind of Kyogre teams. You want to set up the tailwinds, you want to be firing off those water spouts uninterrupted. That is exactly what the Serena is there for. So there's not really any ways of stopping the tailwinds on coming out for Max here. Often see a Whimsicott coming out with Calyrex Shadow Rider, but not going to be opting for that option. Going to have the Regieleki there that could be putting on some very good pressure to the Kyogre. You would assume that the Rillaboom and the Regieleki coming out for Max should be coming to this match because those are the two best ways of breaking through the Kyogre, but then the Serena is able to resist both of them. Able to put a stop to the grassy glides coming out from the Rillaboom as well. So it's going to be an awkward positioning around the tailwind that could come out from this one. It's going to allow that Kyogre a really free reign of what it wants to do. We'll have to see if that Regieleki is going to be Focus Sash, so it'll be able to survive a Water Spout coming out from the Kyogre. Because if it's not going to be Focus Sash, it's going to drop to any water attack the Kyogre wants to go for at that point. The Rillaboom's able to resist it, but then you've still got the Tornadus and the Serena that's going to be threatening very heavily as well. It'll be interesting to see what the fourth Pokemon that should be coming to the match for Sohaib here. You would assume that there's going to be at least the Tornadus and the Kyogre and the Serena, and then you want to round it out with maybe the Amoonguss to get the redirection going. The Entei could be going for something like a Snarl to be able to reduce the damage outputs from the Regieleki and the Calyrex Shadow Rider as well. And Regieleki itself is pretty reasonable as well. If you want to be going for the speed control outside of the Tornadus, you can go for those with the Electros, because it does outspeed the Shadow Rider.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It comes down to kind of, do you need those Electro Webs to start reducing the speed of your opposing side Pokemon, or do you need something like the Amoonguss to have that redirection support? So it comes down to really what you need here, and we'll be able to see in Game 1 which Pokemon are obviously the optimal ones in this matchup. Rillaboom and Regieleki jumping out into the fray. I'm delighted, so is Regieleki, to be here in this match, as Tornadus and Serena are the leads out here as well. So going to be able to have that immediate tailwind pressure, particularly with Serena on the field. Rillaboom can't go for fake outs.
Not sure we're so delighted looking at the Serena instead of the Kyogre as the lead, because you can't go for fake out. That Tailwind is guaranteed at this point. You can go for some very good damage with the Serena as well. The Regieleki's not going to like taking any kind of Grassy Terrain boosted attacks, and the Triple Axle is such a common move on the Serena as well. Even something like a U-turn would still do some very good damage to the Rillaboom. So leading with the 2 Kyogre counters immediately opens them up to some very good damage from the Tornadus and the Serena. You could just be going for a Hurricane into the Rillaboom as well. That would be doing some very good damage. But maybe wanting to get that Tailwind set up straight away so that your Kyogre should be outspeeding all the Pokemon on Max's side of the field at this point. It'd be a bit risky to go for a U-turn with the Serena, because if you get that Tailwind up, then the Serena should be at least be outspeeding the Rillaboom. That could open up for it something to be hit on the switch in at this point. We could get some very good damage coming out from the Serena otherwise. Just a Grass type attack into Regieleki or a Triple Axle into the Rillaboom.
Well, Tailwind has gone up, like you said, and Regieleki going to try and counter that a little bit, going for that Electro Web. Good damage on that opposing Tornadus, going to be breaking the Focus Sash on there, as Serena takes, minimal damage here, but would of course get that speed drop as well from the Electro Web. Serena, however, still faster, going to be going for that Power Whip into the Regieleki, and we'll be able to take it down in one shot here. Rillaboom still left to move, though, for these 4 Pokemon on the battlefield, as Rillaboom does go for that knock off into Serena. Does get a lovely critical hit on there as well, and removes the Assault Vest, leaving Serena a little bit more vulnerable to those special type attacks.
Some very good damage into the opposing Serena. Should be in range of an Astral Barrage coming up from the Calyrex at this point. So you just got to try to start stalling out the Tailwind at this point. It's going to be a bit more awkward now that the Regieleki has been knocked out, and we did see it was not a Focus Sash on the Regieleki, so that's going to be crucial for the Kyogre. If you can speed control your Kyogre faster than Regieleki in the future matches as well, you know that you can knock it out in one shot at this point. With the Electro Web being hit onto the Tornadus and the Serena shouldn't be outspeeding the Calyrex at this point, so if it did have access to something like Payback that is often put onto it for the Calyrex Shadow Riders, shouldn't be able to go for that before that Astral Barrage would hit. So the Calyrex has actually positioned itself pretty nicely. Just sacrificing the Regieleki to get that Electro Web allows it to most likely outspeed the Serena. Maybe not the Tornadus, depending on how that's going to be traded as well. But that could still outspeed the Calyrex. But it would just be something like an Icy Wind or a Hurricane to be able to do the damage to the Calyrex. Maybe into the Rillaboom as well if you want to chunk that, so that when you bring in your Kyogre, you're going to be doing some very good damage to the opposing Rillaboom as well. But it'd be quite risky without the rain, so it looks like it's just an Icy Wind here.
Yeah, more speed control coming out from these Pokemon. The Tornado is going to connect onto both the opposing Pokemon here, dealing a good little chunk of damage there to the Rillaboom with a critical hit. Of course, lots of critical hits flying around here early on in this Game 1, as well as obviously reducing the speed here. Calyrex is going to go for the Astral Barrage, connecting on both the opposing Pokemon on Sohaib's side here. And Tornadus just not going to be able to survive, nor the Serena as well, considering it has lost its Assault Vest to that Rillaboom. It does give Sohaib the opportunity, though, to bring that Kyogre in from the back now.
The thing is, you've lost your Serena. That's going to open up the Grassy Glides that could come. Now sitting at 2 stages of increased special attack. If you're able to fire off another Astral Barrage at some point, you're going to be doing a huge amount of damage. May not be afforded that opportunity with the Icy Winds, with the Tailwinds. Your Kyogre should be outspeeding everything, but then the Grassy Glide could be doing some very good damage. Regieleki is going to be the Pokemon that should be paired up with this Kyogre as well. At least that'll be able to do some good damage to the Calyrex, but not really to the Rillaboom. And even the Kyogre itself not going to be able to do any real damage to the Rillaboom without something like an Ice Beam. And that's a turn you're not attacking the Calyrex Shadow Rider. That should be able to take an attack from the Regieleki. So even though there's the Tailwind up, even though there's the Icy Wind that has been landed onto the Rillaboom and the Calyrex, it's still a pretty good position for Max here, especially with the Serena being knocked out. We'll have to see if the Kyogre has been trained to be able to survive a Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that fired off into the Kyogre. If it's not able to pick up the knockout, it's still going to reduce the damage that could come out from any water spouts from the Kyogre as well. It would have to opt to go for its alternative water move that we so often see. Usually Origin Pulse or Scald here, but no protection on the Kyogre. It's just going to be taking that Grassy Glide.
Oh, and only just manages to take it, surviving on 9 HP, as Electro Web does come out from that. Regieleki once again chipping away at both of these Pokemon, putting Calyrex in quite a precarious situation if something like a Scald is going to come its way, particularly boosted up by that rain, which we can see here. Kyogre does go for the Scald, targeted down into the restricted on Max's side, and will be able to pick up the KO against it. But that Rillaboom looking very, very dangerous here at this situation. I guess you need to be counting these grassy terrain turns as well, because as soon as those disappear, you're not going to have that priority grassy glide anymore.
Should probably have enough turns at this point. And if you are protecting on the Kyogre, that's just stalling out your own Tailwind at this point. And with Urshifu joining the field as well, if it does have Aqua Jet, then that should be enough to pick up the knockout on this Kyogre with the Rain boost as well. And that will avoid any of the protects that could come out, because you can protect from the Grassy Glide at least to try and stall out the Grassy Terrain, but you wouldn't be able to protect from any Aqua Jets coming out.
Yeah, of course, you can't really protect in the face of an Urshifu, but Kyogre's going to go for it anyway, as Rillaboom goes for the Grassy Glide, does connect onto the Protect, so maybe this Urshifu has decided to opt differently. Regieleki does go for the Thunder into that Urshifu, but we didn't see the Focus Sash on the Regieleki, so indicating it's on that Urshifu, as you can see here as well. So it is going to be able to survive and go for those Surging Strikes, going to reap the benefits of the rain here as well, boosting up those Water type moves, and with the 3 critical hits, it only needs 1 to take down that Kyogre.
Yeah, so going to be able to break through that Protect. Not able to stall out the Grassy Terrain turns with that Kyogre still on the field at this point. The Focus Sash being a very nice item choice for the Urshifu, able to take that Thunder very nicely. Now you can probably just go for an Aqua Jet and a Grassy Glide at this point. With the Rain boost, with the Grassy Terrain still up, that should be enough to pick up the knockout on the Regieleki at this point. So, and even if it wasn't able to, and if you're able to get the Electro Web into the Urshifu or any kind of electric type attack, you're still not going to threaten this Rillaboom anymore. The Rillaboom should still be able to break through the Regieleki, even if it was able to stall out the Grassy Terrain turns at this point. But it looks like that's not what's going to happen. It's just going to be the Grassy Glide fired off into that Regieleki.
Yeah, Regieleki, the last Pokemon standing for Sohaib here in this game 1. It does get the KO on that opposing Urshifu, but we saw the damage that Rillaboom was able to deal. And even if Regieleki has the speed on its side, there isn't really a lot that Regieleki can do with electric type moves to that opposing Rillaboom. It's just going to be able to take them really well, fire off a grass type move, and pick up the KO.
Not revealing the Aqua Jet there, still could be on the Urshifu. So opting to hide that information. So if it did have access to the Aqua Jet, that was a guaranteed win to just go for that. This has opened up a potential opportunity for the Regieleki. It is definitely not over at this point completely, because it does have access to Thunder. That can paralyze. The Grassy Terrain has gone now, so the Regieleki will be moving first. You could get a Thunder Paralysis on that Rillaboom. It's definitely going to hit at least. There's still the rain on the field. So you do have to be opting for that Paralysis at this point. But you do need to be getting that Paralysis and then some fully paralyzed as well.
Well, if anyone can do it, I believe in Regieleki. Does connect, but no Paralysis, not to be today, as the Grassy Glide connects onto Regieleki, meaning that Max is going to be able to take game 1.
Yeah, it was really Max's game for almost the entirety of it. It seemed like the Serena and the Tornadus was a very good lead into the opposing Regieleki and Rillaboom, especially because it was able to take out the Regieleki immediately because it wasn't that Focus Sash variety. But then there wasn't really anything threatening the Rillaboom. Going for Icy Wind instead of Hurricane, that's not really going to do too much damage to the opposing Rillaboom. And if you're not going for the Icy Wind, it's not getting the speed drop on the Calyrex Shadow Rider either. And being able to get that boost with the Shadow Rider, getting the 2 boosts, knocking out 2 Pokemon at once, even though it wasn't able to fire off one of those boosted attacks, it was still threatening too much that meant the Scald had to go into the Calyrex. That freed up the Rillaboom from taking an Ice Beam. And as soon as you lost the Tornadus as well and the Serena, those were the 2 best ways of breaking through the Rillaboom. So you took out the Regieleki, at least that's a threat to the Kyogre, but then the Rillaboom is still a threat to the Kyogre as well, and then you just sacrifice both your checks to it. Regieleki and Kyogre really aren't going to be able to do it. Break through that Rillaboom. Ice Beam should be able to do some good damage, but Rillaboom still threatening the Kyogre when Serena is not on the field. So losing Serena that quickly, it's a bit awkward for the Kyogre facing down the Rillaboom, but then there wasn't really a good switch in for the Astral Barrage either. Do you switch in your Regieleki and you're going down to the Focus Sash, and if you're not Focus Sash, you're being knocked out? Or are you going to take that damage from the Kyogre that's going to reduce your Water Spout damage, so you're not going to be able to threaten too much damage in the future? And then the other choice was just sacrifice your Serena, but as soon as it was taken out by the Astral Barrage, there was no way of breaking through the Rillaboom at that point. So it is incredibly awkward for Sohaib. You do get the Tailwind, at least you get the speed control, but there isn't really a good way to use that speed control if you're not be able to threaten the big knockouts. You can do that with the Water Spout from the Kyogre, but the damage was reduced so quickly that it wasn't able to fire off those attacks. So does need to keep the Tornadus and the Serena a bit more safe. Maybe bring the Amoonguss and the Entei to the match. Those do threaten the Rillaboom very heavily. You were able to take out the Regieleki very quickly, and that would free up something like the Entei. It does seem awkward bringing Entei in the potential rain of the Kyogre, but still can go for the Sacred Fire Burns onto the Rillaboom. That would put a stop to the damage coming out from the Kyogre, so that would free up the Kyogre to go for those Water Spouts. Even if it was taking less damage from the Grassy Glides, if it was burnt, it would still be able to do some good damage. It opens up the opportunity to go for the Ice Beams once again into the Rillaboom, because you're not going to be threatened as much by the Grassy Glides. It definitely does need to preserve the Pokemon that can take care of the Rillaboom a lot better, because as soon as the Serena's gone, that is a very good Kyogre check.
I am so in awe of your brain, I have to say. The amount of kind of flowcharts you just went through there was outstanding. And I think, I concur completely with what you were saying. Sohaib really had the predicament of which Pokemon to target there and which moves to go for. The Icy Wind obviously needed to be done for that Calyrex, but then you're not really hitting the Rillaboom, and the Rillaboom was the big threat of Game 1. We're going to see the leads adjusted, however. There's going to be the Calyrex Shadow Rider coming out here with the Regieleki once again happy to be on the Pokemon battlefield. And hey, there's two. Regieleki and Tornadus are going to come out for Sohaib here as well.
So we're going to get a lot of speed control potentially coming out this turn. Whether that's just the Tailwind for the Tornadus and then the Electro Webs from both the Regielekis at this point. And not threatening too much damage onto the Calyrex, you'd probably have to go for a combination of Thunder and Hurricane, maybe Volt Switch and Hurricane, but even still, that would be risking shaky accuracy attacks. So Calyrex most likely going to be able to fire off an Astral Barrage this turn. That will do some very good damage to both the Tornadus and the Regieleki. The Regieleki on Max's side of the field should still be threatening some very good damage. It can go for the speed control with the Electro Webs just to start getting that speed control back if the Tornadus goes for a Tailwind, or it can just go for the knockout on the Tornadus as well. We haven't seen if it is going to be the Focus Sash on the Tornadus. We could be seeing that's going into this match because you'd be threatening some huge damage with the Regieleki. Maybe you go for a Volt Switch into the Tornadus. If it is the Wackenberry, you're going to use that up straight away, and you're going to be doing some very good damage to the Tornadus. Preserve your Regieleki in the back to try and get through this Tailwind that is being set up by the Tornadus.
Yes, exactly. Tailwind coming out into the fray as Regieleki decides to get in on out of there, going for the Volt Switch. Huge damage into that opposing Calyrex. I think it's holding the magnet item here, so going to be able to boost up those electric type moves, deal a good chunk of damage, and also have the opportunity to go for the switch here, bringing the Amoonguss into the fray. Little sneak peek at the Pokemon in the back, and I did not spot the restricted there, so Sohaib really going for high risk, high reward here, particularly Amoonguss joining the field and avoiding the Electro Web. Tornadus not so fortunate though, will have to take significant damage here and get its speed reduced as Calyrex follows up with the Astral Barrage. This is of course going to be more than enough to pick up the KO against that Tornadus and deals over 50% to that Amoonguss as well. So Amoonguss definitely not safe going into this next turn. And the one thing Sohaib does not want is these Grim Nade boosts to start rolling.
And you've got one of them already, so you're going to do huge damage. You didn't even need it to be able to pick up the knockout on that Amoonguss as well. And it's not a very speedy Pokemon, even though the Tailwind's up. It's really not going to be able to make use of it. Regieleki absolutely will, as it's joining the field in the space of that Fallen Tornadus. But at least the Calyrex is going to be in range of an attack that can come out from the Regieleki, because you can get the knockout on the Calyrex at this point, and you'll be able to get a Spore into the opposing Regieleki. You should be able to survive any attack that comes out with the Amoonguss, and then you get the sleep going on the Regieleki on Max's side of the field. So this is actually still a pretty reasonable position for Sohaib. Lost the Tornadus very early, got that Tailwind going. Not so necessary because the Regieleki would be outspeeding the Calyrex, at least on Max's side of the field. At least you avoid any speed ties that come out from the Regieleki. You didn't get Electro Webs with the Regieleki on Sohaib's side of the field because it did go for the Volt Switch now. It's definitely going to be moving first here, and especially because the Regieleki on Max's side of the field is switching into that Rillaboom.
Yeah, and a good switch here if Spore was indeed going down into that slot. Just going to be able to obviously negate that and set the grassy terrain on the field as well to be able to get a little bit of grassy recovery as well at the end of all of these turns. These could be critical a little later on. And Calyrex, I think, quite wisely going for a Protector in the face of a super speedy Regieleki, and it also allows the fake out potential coming in from that Rillaboom on that next turn. Amoonguss, however, has gone for the Sludge Bomb, so able to catch the Rillaboom on the switch, does just under a third of damage, but I think critically gets that poison as well, so putting the Rillaboom on a little bit of a timer here.
Yeah, that's a nice call from Sohaib there, catching the Rillaboom, but really not doing too much damage. Definitely going to be the Assault Vest variety of the Rillaboom, but now Max is in a very, very commanding position. You just get to go for Fake Out into the Regieleki, and you click Astral Barrage. 2 Pokemon will be knocked out at this point. You're going to have to Protect to try and avoid that, and that's stalling out the Tailwind once again, because there's only 2 more turns of the Tailwind at this point, and then you'd just be able to Protect on the last one, and you've stalled it out at that point. So very good positioning for Max. At least able to call the Rillaboom switch in with that Sludge Bomb, but really not enough at this point. Getting the poison on top of it, still not going to be able to knock out the Rillaboom with another Sludge Bomb at this point. So yeah, you just get to go for the Fake Out. You can go for the Astral Barrage. if the Pokemon waiting in the back for Sohaib switches in, that's still going to be taking a huge amount of damage, whatever that is going to be. We did get the sneak peek of what it is. That's not going to like taking the Astral Barrage on the switch in either. So you can protect out of the potential fake outs, which the Regieleki is going for, but that is just stalling out your Tailwind at this point.
Yeah, one protect here as Rillaboom does go for the fake out, not fearing a potential Serena switch in from the back, as Calyrex goes for the Astral Barrage here. So Regieleki, of course, going to hang around and stay, as it will connect down onto that opposing Amoonguss. And as short-lived as Amoonguss has been on the battlefield, it will now be KO'd, leaving Sohaib with the opportunity to bring a Pokemon in from the back. But Calyrex has got another Grimne boost here.
Yeah, we're back up to +2 stages of increased special attack at this point. That's when it got knocked out in the previous game, and it should be able to be knocked out in this game as well. Assuming the Regieleki is able to survive the Grassy Glide coming out from the Rillaboom, because we have seen is going to be holding that Magnet. Maybe it's able to survive the Grassy Glide. And with this Entei that's going to be joining the field, so no Kyogre coming out for Sohaib at all. Entei is in a pretty good position at this point. It's facing down the Rillaboom, and it's not in the rain at all, so it will be able to threaten some very good damage with the Fire-type attacks. The Calyrex should be in range of any attack that the Regieleki or the Entei would want to go for at this point, because it's taken so much damage with the Life Orb adding up and all the Electro Webs and Volt Switches going fired off on the Regieleki. But Max still does have access to all 4 of their Pokemon, whereas Sohaib's down to their last 2, and the Tailwind is only up for 1 more turn. That could allow the Regieleki for Max to come in at some point and start going for those Electro Webs when the Tailwind has been stalled out here. And one way to do that is to go for Protect.
Exactly, go for the Protector, stall out that Tailwind. Rillaboom does indeed go for the Grassy Glide into that Regieleki, which is the Pokemon most fearsome against that opposing Calyrex here. Calyrex just going to protect us. Entei goes for Roar while Jamie Boyd is commentating. Fantastic to see the Calyrex removed from the field. That's, of course, going to negate all of those stat boosts that it has got, and it forces Max to drag that Regieleki out onto the battlefield. Oh, it must be good to see Roar once again, Jamie.
Haven't seen it for ages. You can't use Raw on Dynamax Pokemon, so it's dropped off in all the previous series. But now you can just go for Raws into something like a Xerneas. That is primarily what it is used for. You get rid of any kind of boosts. Getting rid of 2 special attack boosts on the Calyrex Shadow Rider is definitely going to be beneficial. But you're switching in the Regieleki at this point. Should just be able to pick up the knockout onto the opposing Regieleki. You're not going to be able to knock it out with your own one. If you go for Electro Web, you should still be outspeeding the Entei at that point. You still have access to the Grassy Glide, so you can just go for Grassy Glide into the opposing Regieleki to knock it out as well. That will allow you to just get some good damage into the opposing Entei. So quite a nice Roar, but still probably not the position that Sohaib still needs at this point. Going to just be trying to protect away from that potential Grassy Glide, or the electric attacks coming out from the Regieleki.
That's the thing, Regieleki looking really vulnerable, so wise to protect in the face of that Grassy Glide, leaving the Regieleki on Max's side free to go for this Electro Web here. Going to be able to connect down onto the Entei, just do a little bit of damage, and, you know, reducing that speed there as well, as Entei goes for the Sacred Fire, connecting into the Regieleki. Not going to be enough to pick up the KO against it, but now just puts it 1 hit away from being KO'd. So both the Regielekis, although they're happy and bouncing on the field, they are certainly in very vulnerable positions here.
Yeah, they are very frail Pokemon, so a combination of 2 attacks is usually enough to pick up the knockout. A Sacred Fire will do that on the opposing Regieleki on Max's side of the field. Grassy Glide should be able to do that on the Regieleki on Sohaib's side of the field. And we still do have grassy terrain on the field, so that is still going to be a priority attack coming out into the Regieleki with the Grassy Glide potential there. And that opens up the potential for Regieleki to go for another electric type attack into the Entei, but that's a double protect coming out from Sohaib's Regieleki.
Oh, Regieleki playing it brave, goes for the Protect. Electro Web once again not going to be able to find its mark on Regieleki. It's going to keep its speed intact for the turn where it can possibly try and get some damage off when it's maybe going to be able to avoid a Grassy Glide. And Rillaboom actually going to be able to go for the U-turn here into the Entei, removes itself from the field, leaving itself free to be able to set that grassy terrain up a little bit later on in the game. And I think as well, critically knowing, particularly that there's no Serena anymore, that you can have that fake out utility as well and just allow Max with his, you know, remaining Pokemon advantage, be able to, you know, switch Pokemon on, deal some damage, and just keep chipping away at Sohaib's team.
We got the Urshifu joining the field. The Calyrex was pretty low. It wouldn't have wanted to take any attacks from the Entei. The Sacred Fire is going to be fired off into the Urshifu. That could open it up to a burn here.
Oh, but no, the Urshifu is going to be able to take the Sacred Fire. It will, of course, break the Focus Sash on that Urshifu, so still the Sacred Fire connecting has done some benefit for Sohaib, but certainly when that you consider the fact that that Entei has had its speed very severely reduced, it's going to be looking a little bit precarious for this Urshifu. But again, Urshifu doesn't want to take any damage from the Regieleki, so we've got this little triangle of damage going on.
Could still be speed ties on the Regielekis on the field, because the Regieleki on Sohaib's side of the field has protected away from those Electro Webs, so should be able to potentially go for a speed tie, may be in range of an Aqua Jet. That wasn't revealed in the game 1, and it's actually a different priority attack coming out here. Extreme speeds, not able to pick up the knockout on the Regieleki.
Yeah, not able to. And another priority move is going to be the Aqua Jet. And this time, a Regieleki will be KO'd by a priority move. Regieleki on Max's side is going to go for that Electro Web once again, connecting down into the Entei. Just keeps going for these Electro Webs, one after the other here. Just constantly chipping away at this opposing Entei. That could potentially be indicative of what the item choice was on that Regieleki. I'm not sure if we saw it switch up its moves. But either way, it looks like we've seen a forfeit logged in.
Yeah, there's no way back for Sohaib at this point. Max still has all 4 of their Pokemon. You get to click Electro Web or Aqua Jet at that point. Even if the Electro Web misses, you've got an Astral Barrage coming the Entei's way. So, yeah, very, very strong performance coming out for Max there. It didn't seem like there was any real grasp of the game for Sohaib. Seemed like they were on the back foot pretty much the entire game. That game 1, there was no way through the Rillaboom. And then... because of that, they ended up not even bringing their restricted Pokemon in that Kyogre at that point. So, yeah, when you're not bringing your restricted to the match, that's always an awkward one going into this series, because that is always going to be theoretically one of your best Pokemon to bring to most games. And when you have to leave it on the bench, that's never what you want to see.
No, exactly. You want to be able to have that kind of power in the tank on the battlefield, but unfortunately just wasn't meant to be. And I have to say as well, in that game too, having the Calyrex Shadow Rider just keep getting up those boosts as well just made it such a formidable threat. And with the key Pokemon, you know, side by side, you had the Regieleki dealing some good damage out there. We know how much pressure the Rillaboom was able to apply to Sohaib's team. It just meant that, again, if you're Sohaib, you don't know which Pokemon to target down, because every single one that was coming out from Max was a threat, and it took every single little calculation, but just unfortunately Max was able to capitalize, particularly at the end, trying to control the speed and having access to all those priority moves. Just, you know, made it advantageous and got the win.
Yeah, able to pretty much snowball the momentum through both of the games that they were able to take very early on. So very strong showing for Max and Spain here, able to tie up the series at least a 1-1 for now. So we'll be cutting straight to a short break, and we'll be right back for another match between Thailand and South Korea.